Okay, thanks for coming everyone. Today's brown bag is going to be about using our campaign engine CLMS for Optus. So we're going to be talking specifically about the prepaid 10-year rewards program. It's going to be quite quick. Koi is going to be helping me. So a lot of this stuff you already know, but just so that the other teams worldwide can kind of get an idea of how we run things, this would be quite helpful. Essentially the campaign process is when an idea takes hold with Optus. And you can see what happens is we have the client comes up with a campaign brief. They provide that brief to the CBDM, and in it there's an outline, an input list, hopefully. Sometimes the input list comes later. That's the actual instance that we use to send the comms out to the customers. Along with the comms, whether that's a copy or whether it's just an activation message or some sort of SMS that we send out. And then any reporting requirements. The CBDM, which is me, in this particular case, generates a JIRA ticket and updates and finalises the brief, and then goes back to the client, asks for sign-off, and then schedules in team ops, which in this case is Koi. Koi's job is then to convert the brief into a understandable and usable campaign flow, which is the source of truth. He then sets up the campaign, does daily campaign maintenance and reporting. Everybody across these three groups are responsible for testing. The client and the CBDM then work together to generate the sign-off, and Koi, who's our team ops, is responsible for launching a beautiful campaign. So Greg really wanted me to talk today about the campaign form. I think the most important thing we found is that these campaign forms really do ensure that we don't make any mistakes. And we've had a couple of those happen in the past. We try not to make them happen very often. This is quite small, but most of you have seen them, and when we upload this, I'll provide the formal version to Vic as well. One of the things that we really wanted to make note of here is with prepaid 10-year rewards, it had two phases. And you can't really see this here, but this section here denotes version control. And in it, anything that happens every time we update the form, every time the client has a change or we make a change, we keep a record of it. And as soon as that campaign goes live, it goes from being a partial number to being a whole number. So in this case, 1.0, then we know the campaign's gone live. And because we actually ran a phase 2 of prepaid 10-year rewards, we then had a second variation, but it ran off of the first one. So then everything after 1 we know is pertainable to phase 2 of the campaign. In it, we also put together, or the client actually puts together a campaign background, and we go through it, the CBDM goes through it to make sure every detail is captured, that Koi understands what he needs to build. With prepaid 10-year rewards, the program was essentially asking us to generate access codes for a rewards program, which we then pushed through to a third-party supplier, that being TLC, and that supplier then allowed the customers then to go into the supplier's hosted website to redeem their rewards. We also pushed through some of the rewards that customers redeemed if they were, for example, pizza or network bonus offers, but if the reward was something like a Snapfish photo book or a 2-for-1 movie voucher, then the other third-party supplier was responsible for redemption. This is all important because it's all then drawn back into our reporting via the API feeds, which Koi then produces on a daily basis and gets sent across to the client. So I'm going to let Koi quickly talk through with you the campaign flow, and I'm sorry that the imagery is so small. This campaign happens to be one of the biggest ones we have, which is why there's so much detail.
So the difference between this campaign and our other campaign is the integration between our CLMS and TLC. Before, we only happened between CLMS and Optus. So now we have TLC at the third party here. So every day we receive the daily list from Optus. Sorry, it's so blurred. The customer enter the campaign and we generate the access code of 7 characters, and we send that one with the API to TLC. TLC then will confirm if everything is logged into their database, and then they will acknowledge us with another API code to our system. We generate the event and move the customer into the next step and send them the offer SMS. On the offer SMS, the customer will have a set of the reward, for example, dollar, minutes, pizza, movie ticket, or photo book. When the customer receive the offer SMS, they can redeem their voucher, their reward online or via the SMS. If they decide to redeem their voucher online, they go into the Optus website, put in their MSI stamp and the access code that we generated. And if everything is, at the time they put in their MSI stamp and the voucher code, TLC need to connect the API, validate the voucher again, and if the voucher is valid, we will push the customer to receive the reward, and we will send them the voucher code that we have for the third-party supply. So this is briefly the campaign flow that we have. Other thing is if the customer outside the campaign period or something else, and if they forget their voucher, they can also go online and resend the SMS. So this is the detail of the campaign, and this is the high level of the campaign flow. So Optus will send us the file with the data warehouse every day. We load the file into our system, CLMS will push the customer, and the customer will receive the comms or the reward, and that's iterated to TLC. And at the end of the day, we will send back the response feed data with all the customer behavior back to Optus, and marketing team on Optus will analyze that data, and we also had a reporting. So this is a report that we generate daily on repay tender reward. So this is the day that we receive the daily feed. This is the number of customers. It's so blurred here. So in total we have 447,000 customers, and this is the overall result of each of the reward that the customer receive and redeem via SMS or online. And we divide the customer by the group as well. So depend on the group, customer will have different set of reward. So this is a report that we send to Optus daily.
Great. So just to clarify as well, this particular campaign flow is the flow that's sent back to the client together with their updated campaign brief, and is used by the client to ensure that we've actually met all the criteria. So things like whether we're checking something specific, whether a reward is being applied, all of these little images represent something. They're a bit small, I know, I'm sorry. There's a reward here, and then an SMS is sent out to the customer confirming the reward has been applied. So this piece, just this one particular flow that Koi generates, is the one thing the client goes off to ensure that we actually have achieved what they've asked for, the requirements. That is it.
Very good. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah.
No?
Everyone hungry?
Yes.
What type of time frames do you journalists look at? You know, for something this size, which is quite large, between the briefing and the getting of the requirements and actually setting up the steps and then approvals?
So I'll let Koi answer that, because
I think that would take around half a month. And when you need to develop something, it takes a few days, right? 1 week, few days.
So in this instance, was the TLC a new piece of development or configuration?
in phase one it was,
Okay.
but not in phase two. So the relationship needed to be built up. You're right. We needed to build an API. We needed to build the back end requirements to allow for the API calls to be made, for the vouchers to be pushed through. We also receive. Well, we actually receive. No, we don't receive. They actually have to create voucher codes for all of the Snackfish, photo books, and pizza. So there's a lot of sign-off that's required. There's a lot of detail behind a program like this. But we can actually run campaigns every day, standard campaigns, things like an IN outage, for example, where we just notify the customers we're apologising, we're going to give you some credit. Koi can turn that around. We can turn that around in about
1 hour.
1 hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, something big like this though takes a few weeks.
And then in terms of if there's any issues out on the TLC side, like we can't contact them, does Niraj, or do you take ownership of any alerts on that side, or does that get briefed through Niraj as well?
At the moment, I take the ownership of the campaign, and it's almost finished. And so far in phase 1, we don't have any single issue.
Yes.
On phase 2, we have one issue on the configuration.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the lesson for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Alex.